We are extremely pleased right now to be joined by Ann Coulter, author of the new book. Although, how new is it, Ann? I think about 6 months or so now. The Trump We Trust, E Pluribus.
Awesome. It actually came out 2 months before the election, though. The themes will be consistent for a while.
I bet they will be. So if you haven't had a chance to pick it up yet, definitely go to Amazon and pick it up now. And Ann, you're joining us here today.
You may not remember this, but when you appeared on the show maybe 2 or 3 years ago, you said I was your favorite liberal. I want you to remember that.
She says that to all the liberals.
You think she does?
Well, that's high praise.
Well, I know, because I quote that many times. Bernie Goldberg said I was his favorite liberal, too. And Glenn Beck said I was his favorite liberal. So see you in great company.
No, that doesn't impress me.
Let's talk about the state of politics in the Trump era. I think that's probably a good place to begin. How do you think he's doing so far?
Abominably.
I noticed the other day on Twitter that you were going on a little rant about the tax reform stuff. So I know that you were pretty upset.
Tax reform. That was no.
No, it's his meeting with Democrats that has seemed to.
Well, I don't care if he meets with Democrats. I mean, one of the idiotic lines Chuck Schumer used on Trump was, you can't have only right-wing ideas. You need to have some ideas from both sides, or you get boxed in. And, that's been celebrated in the media as this absolutely genius point. It's an idiotic point. Yeah, that's been true for a long time. Trump didn't run as your standard Republican. That's why, if you turned on TV at any moment during the 2016 campaign, you would see Republicans on TV denouncing Trump as not a real Republican. I mean, remember the very first debate where Fox News was setting him up for a fall, demanding that they all raise their hands if they'd support the eventual nominee. Trump was the only one who wouldn't, and that was, according to reports, Rupert Murdoch's directions. This has gone on long enough. You got to take this guy out. And every time I'd see these Republican flacks and consultants on TV saying he's not even a real Republican, I'd think, thank God he's not a real Republican. Finally, we have someone who is not being forced by the RNC to take all these suicidal positions. The way Trump ran, he didn't, unlike most candidates, I might add, at least in my lifetime, it is true. And if Trump continues on the road he's on now, which is and still being on the Trump train and the president being off the Trump train, it may be time for a third party, because anybody could pick these ideas up.
So that's my question to you, Ann, because it appears that Donald Trump is not picking up any of his own populist theories.
No, it's amazing. It's crazy. And I was worried about this soon after the election. I wrote a couple of columns on how Trump could ruin his presidency, how the establishment will try to destroy Trumpism. And man, it's all happened exactly as predicted. And why was I terrified when it was still November 2016? Because he wasn't hiring the right people. He was hiring all the usual Washington, D.C. flacks, Goldman Sachs bankers. Oh, my gosh, that was like a central plank of his campaign. He hated Wall Street. Wall Street hated him. He has more Goldman Sachs bankers working for him than either Obama, Bush, Clinton, any of them. He didn't hire Chris Kobach, the obvious person for Homeland Security. It's all on, looks and, this will be impressive. I'll get a general. Nikki Haley at the UN. Personnel is policy, and he's surrounded by people who oppose all of his policies. He's listening to Paul Ryan. That's why they start with the tax cuts. And, as I've said before, I'd love a tax cut. That's not what Donald Trump ran on. The country is suffering. We need jobs. He promised to overturn NAFTA, to harangue these CEOs, to bring the jobs back. And obviously, the central promise that he was reminded of at every single one of those rallies was build the wall.
You're right about that. That's certainly what he ran on. And I guess my question is, I was always a little bit suspicious of Mr. Trump myself, because I didn't know if I believed that anything he was saying was what he really believed. He seems to have some pretty malleable opinions depending on who's around him, and maybe that's the culprit for what you're talking about right now. Is it basically a hostage to whoever he's in the room with whatever their opinion is. And I think that a lot of what he ran on was probably the dream and the brainchild of the Steve Bannons of the world. And now he's got, Kelly as his chief of staff, and he's got a lot of people around him that have a different worldview, and suddenly he does too. I mean, is that kind of what this is about?
Yes. Though I'd add to that, one is, first of all, his most avid supporters, and I am head of the team, we knew he was a lazy, shallow narcissist. Don't think we were in love with the man. No, went into this eyes wide open. But he was the only one saying the things I've been dying for a presidential candidate to say, I think, my entire life. And so, if he is betraying us now, and I hope he gets back on the Trump train, he's betraying us by instead of doing the things he ran on, doing the things every other candidate promised to do. So I have no regrets it's imperative. You had to support him with everything you had. You finally have someone who's going to take America's side on all these issues. But I will say, he actually does have really great instincts. And before he started running, I mean, for example, when the Gang of Eight amnesty was up before, being pushed by Rubio, being pushed by Fox News, being pushed by the entire media, and hidden from us, that was one of 3 amnesties the American people have shut down in the last decade.
I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the issue of Free Speech Week, because, and first let me premise this by saying I don't know exactly why you'd want to go to UC Berkeley, but I don't know why they wouldn't want you to speak. And I believe that everybody should be welcome on any campus, and that's where the free exchange of ideas should be. That being said, are you in? Are you out? And what's going on?
Well, I totally agree with you. Why should these brats get the benefit of my wisdom? So I had zero interest in this. It's only because I'm Milo's friend. He asked me, am I free? I said, yes, I'm free. But there's just for me personally, there's no deal worked out with my speakers bureau. So, and it's allegedly next week, so I don't think I'm going. Number 2, it's starting to look like the university is, in fact, going to shut it down anyway. That's why I've been sort of dubious about this from the beginning, because they do pull these tricks. And I suspect, and I don't know anything about it directly, this goes through my speakers bureau, but from what I've read about it, the university is doing the things they often do. The student organization files the papers, asks for meetings, is this all set? When do we send the check in? And they hear nothing. They say go this way, and then, oh, I'm sorry you didn't file this paper in time. So from what I've seen, the university won't give the Free Speech Weekers a room. And why should we bother enlightening these brats? This would be a really good time for any college, and I think colleges are total rip-offs, cost way too much. I don't think anyone gets smarter at college, and their poor parents are out $200,000. I have an alternative to college. I'll mention it in a minute. But if you want it, if you're, a good school but not a Harvard or a Yale, this would be a fantastic time to come out and have administrators say, we believe in free speech at this college. We will treat all student groups alike. We are not like these left-wing fascists on the other campuses.
I would be remiss if I didn't dispute you a little bit on this one, and I think you should go to these campuses because I was just reading something out of Brookings earlier this morning about a study that they just recently did. They sampled like 1,500 college students and their views on free speech and whether they think they should be, we should restrict offensive language and whether it's okay to shout down people and protest to the point where they go away. And it's shockingly high, and it's weirdly high among even Republicans on campus too, which is the really disappointing thing, I think, when you look at that. So I think that there's a necessity for showing up in these places and maybe knocking some heads around a little bit and making them feel uncomfortable so that they realize that the world has not, in fact, ended after it's all over. I mean, seriously, right? I mean, Shapiro just went down there, right? And it went okay. I mean, it's, they'll live. It's all right.
I'm really depressed about this, actually. I've given, probably I am the conservative who gives more college speeches than anyone else, and I love them. They're fun. And if they seem really rowdy, I'll shorten the speech and we'll have a really long question and answer period. And look, I have changed a lot of kids' minds because They've never heard a conservative. I'm the only conservative they will hear in 4 years. I'm just like, this figure of hatred. And I'm not as mean to college liberals as I would be to, Geraldo Rivera or Chris Matthews. They're kids. And if they get nasty, I might get a little snippy back. But a good time is had by all. It's a lot of fun. I'm really depressed. I was specifically speaking of Berkeley in this case. But
right.
I got to tell you, until Berkeley, and I probably give at least 10, some years more like 20 college speeches a year, which is quite a lot considering they're only in session, 8 months a year, 9 months a year, and a lot of those are exam periods. I've never been shut down at a college speech in the United States. It happened in Canada. They don't have a First Amendment. It has never happened in the United States, and I just find this development beyond depressing, not only personally for me, but for the country.
And final question for you. Will Donald Trump be impeached, and should Donald Trump be impeached? And will he be the candidate for the Republican Party in 2020?
As I tweeted when he started embracing amnesty, I don't know who would oppose impeachment at this point. I mean, the good things about Trump from a Republican perspective, even if he completely abandons everything he ran on, which he seems to be doing, are, Supreme Court justices, the standard cutting regulation, cutting taxes, love all that stuff, none of the crazy stuff that we would have gotten under a Hillary Clinton. Well, can't Mike Pence do that? And he can do that without being a tacky, boorish billionaire. So, am I going to knock myself out? And if he keeps pushing Dreamers, I'll work for the impeachment committee. As for who we run next time, I don't know. I think I don't know. I think we should start taking auditions for it. I've always been adamantly opposed to third parties because it's usually someone from the right and ends up costing the Republican the presidency. But I think things have changed. Donald Trump has helped us see that they've changed. Even, 20, 30 years ago when Ross Perot ran. Do you know Ross Perot was ahead in the polls until he started talking about the CIA disrupting his daughter's wedding?
And before he dropped out and then came back and then dropped out and came back.
He was ahead in the polls. Those issues, the trade issue, the putting America first, the protecting American jobs from cheap labor of mass legal and illegal immigration, those are popular issues. I don't know what else Americans have to do to convey to Washington. Less immigration, please. Please care about us and not foreigners. But if putting Trump in the White House doesn't do it, I think you could get another crazy billionaire.
All right, Ann Coulter, unfortunately, we are out of time with you. We'd love to keep talking, but we got to go. We're going to take a break right now and be back in just a minute on the WGAN Morning News.